everybody, welcome to Quick Takes, the first episode we're doing now, the first episode of the show.
Yeah.
We're lying, we actually filmed 4 episodes before this and we completely got rid of them. But
No, we didn't.
No, they didn't happen. Didn't happen if we didn't release
We're professionals.
Yeah, we're professionals, it's fine. So, I'm Dylan, I am director, photography, visual effects, editor guy, like basically whatever needs to happen on our film sets, usually I end up doing it. Here I have Mar, who's our creative person, our creative director, directs everything we need. And next to us we have Adam. Adam does absolutely nothing. No,
I'm just here for vibes, man.
No, Adam is a content guru, great actor, great friend, and cooks a mean pasta. So
Yeah.
those are his
Sometimes blue, but
We made blue pasta yesterday for a different episode or something else. So
Today I heard we were talking about something so cool.
we're talking about the one, the only. We're talking about The Last of Us, right? Okay, everyone, clicker noises.
Bella Ramsey can actually do a really
No, it's
clicker
know,
noise.
Bella Ramsey in general.
We'll put the clip
Yeah.
here, but no, Bella Ramsey in general, I agree. So, The Last of Us. There's not really much to complain about The Last of Us, so we're not doing that. We're not one of those shows where they sit around the table and complain, like film critics. That's boring. We're one of those shows where we sit around the table and say nice things about Super Mario.
Because
And-
we don't criticize, we discuss.
Yeah, because as people who try to make films, we've made 2 and we're going to continue making more and hopefully make bigger ones that you guys might actually see in the future.
Yeah.
The way back coming out summer 2023. The first season's already out on different As people who make films and want to make films, we appreciate all the work that goes into it. And that's what this show is. It is us appreciating some really cool people's work and maybe complaining sometimes, but mostly at big corporations like Netflix. So today we're talking about The Last of Us. In The Last of Us, we're going to be talking about what made it great, right? I mean, everyone
Yeah.
pretty much agreed it's one of the greatest shows. I mean, it's up there with Breaking Bad.
Totally.
and-
I mean, HBO just pulls out some great shows. Game of Thrones, Euphoria. I mean, The Idol, that's an entire episode by itself. Sam Levinson, sorry. But HBO is just insane. I find them absolutely insane. I think they're
Yeah.
rewriting the script for how to make a good TV show.
And that script is they are hiring really creative people to do really creative jobs and throwing them really creative amounts of money that they can do their job properly. And I thank them for it because they just keep giving us amazing content.
I mean, to begin with, The Last of Us in general was a game ahead of its time, too.
Was the guy who made the game the same guy who made the series?
Yeah, Neil Druckmann.
Neil
so
Druckmann,
Neil
yeah.
Druckmann made both. And then they got Craig Mazin, I believe his name is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Craig Mazin is an amazing storyteller. You might have heard of him from Chernobyl. He was the main guy
Okay.
who made Chernobyl. He's a writer more than anything else, but he's just a really cool, creative guy. I mean, I've heard a couple of his podcasts and speeches where, I mean, his main thing is show, don't tell. And that's what we're going to get into, right? Today is The Last of Us, show, don't tell, because that's all they did, and they absolutely nailed it.
Now, what do you mean by show, don't tell?
So, show, don't tell is a storytelling technique, right? If you want to tell a great story at home, it's not going to work because you can't show your grandma what happened last Saturday. Probably shouldn't either. Right? Last Saturday was St. Patrick's Day. So, but storytelling in film is super nuanced. And since it's not a book, right? You have pictures, you have sound. There are many different things to what the actors are saying, right? So these amazing writers on The Last of Us just filled the entire show top to bottom with image, and by the third image, you now understand what's going on.
Yeah, but do you think they had to do that because of the way the game was portrayed, or do you think they just chose to do it that way?
I think that since he made the game,
Yeah.
right, when you're telling a story in a game as deep as The Last of Us, you have to hide it, right?
And obviously, Neil Druckmann has been telling the story for 10 years now. The Last of Us came out 2013, I don't know when, but
Yeah.
he's been telling the story for years. He knows it inside out. So he has now, I think because of this the fact that it turned into a series, he has the opportunity to put this in.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think basing it off a game is what made it so visually exciting, and it is that show don't tell atmosphere, because obviously if you're playing a game, you're not playing it just for the story.
They did a lot of things right.
Dylan has some photos to
no,
show us.
We have some photos. They did a lot of things right in The Last of Us, right? One of the main things I think they nailed is the tone and the look and the feel of the show. It felt like the game. And one of the things I think they did, which it's a massive budget show. I mean, we're not shooting.
Yeah.
Like our last show was what, 30K, which is a lot of money, but it's, I mean, that's the catering budget per day odds are on The Last of Us.
Yeah.
But what they did was they hired some really, really talented people in visual effects. And more than that, they had these people throughout the entire process. So from the beginning, middle, and the end, like concepting and designing and figuring out how they're going to shoot this, they had some really talented people.
And I guess that's how it should be for a show like
now,
this.
we can give examples of times we've done this on a smaller scale because it's something that most filmmakers do when they want to make things feel bigger.
Yeah.
We're a visual effects studio. We do cool visual effects. And so, I mean, stuff like this is pretty obvious, right? So the easiest visual effect that they did is they just would literally take a field and they're like, oh, we need to Chicago, right? They're not going to fly to Chicago.
And I mean, it makes perfect sense because most likely this entire scene, this I think was in episode 1, was probably a second, third unit shoot.
You know what I mean? This might not even be her.
That might be in the backyard of the kid for all I care.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Like, they're not simple stuff. Then, I mean, they did a lot, right? So they build just the front part of whatever
so
need.
Impressed.
And the background, it's something called DMP, digital matte painting. I have
As in you could probably tell by just looking at it.
But
it
you can't
wasn't...
tell that it looks bad.
No,
You're
you
just
can't
like,
tell it
there's
looks
no
bad.
way that they'd film it there.
No, but once you're immersed, you couldn't tell. Now looking at it, I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Why would they do that? That's cool. You know what I mean?
To be honest, this scene is a shot-for-shot replica of the game, even script-wise. They say the exact same lines as the game.
That must be really great for storyboarding. So in filmmaking, usually, like for bigger scenes like this, and especially visual effect scenes, you would draw with an artist like each shot, what this going to do, and then you can show the entire crew, hey, this is what we're shooting today. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. When you have the game, I mean, you get to watch the movie you're making, right? A movie you made, right? Because Neil Druckmann made this game shot for shot.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later gets to go, you know what? This is how we should have done that. So he can use his own game as reference and then show the visual effects people, hey, this is what this is supposed to look like. So that allows for a really consistent look when the VFX people are working on Marvel shows, right? I mean, realistically, you're a visual effects artist and you're working on maybe 2 shots of the entire show, 3 shots.
Exactly.
And you're spending a month on them. You don't know what the rest of the show looks like. These people maybe were fans of the show and they could just show them.
Oh, I'm sure like the entire cast. I think they even mentioned it that a large portion of the cast were fans.
Yeah,
and that's why everyone was so excited to work on it because everyone was a fan of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's super simple stuff. But besides what you'd call like a regular visual effect, you know, green screen, blue screen,
the
all the added stuff.
prosthetics.
Yeah, I mean, they had these clickers. And these clickers, I thought were CGI. Not because they looked bad, because I was just like, there's no way you can...
Yeah,
this person is missing half their face.
Was the big boy bloater CGI?
Yeah, the bloater completely real.
Yeah.
No, completely real. Stunt guy, 6 foot stunt guy, full suit. It's insane.
That must have taken them hours to make.
For sure.
Days.
But I mean, Brendan Fraser did something very similar.
The whale. 6 hours in a tent.
Just
Jesus
doing makeup.
Christ.
Like you couldn't... I suffer to get my hair cut. Like I need a haircut right now because that 20 minutes kills me.
I'd love to spend 6 hours in a makeup chair. That's like...
nothing like myself.
That's like the most relaxing experience.
These photos make me laugh so much. Because you just cut a take and like the clicker is just like, so how was that? And it's just like everyone stops and like this guy is acting completely normal.
I think it's very similar to like Vecna and Stranger Things
where
you just see them like they're quite a funny person, right? And you just see them off take like with a can of Pepsi, just like with a straw.
Yeah.
You know, can you just imagine like going outside and like you order the pizza and you have to wait for them, and you're just like, you know, in full Vecna outfit or like this, and you're like thanks. My name's Dave, by the way. But But I mean, just consistently, I mean, look at this photo. Is this the game? Is this the show?
I was about to ask. I can't
I
tell.
think this is concept art, but literally, the show looks like this. And
The
that's
show
crazy.
looks like
it's crazy.
the concept art. It's absolutely amazing.
Nabo!
Now, this is where
Oh,
we
I love
get
him.
to an interesting segment that I like to call
Yes, hilarious.
Everyone Stop Complaining About Visual Effects.
No, it's so funny because on our to-do list of things to speak about, one of them was bad CGI, in brackets, example, The Last of Us fake giraffe.
No, it's
It's
really funny.
hilarious.
It's hilarious because we thought everything in that shot but the giraffe wasn't CGI.
Exactly.
So, here's the studio take that I'm coming up with myself because I get to speak for the visual effects team of the studio,
Yes.
being the one-person team it is. People, you guys, need to stop complaining about bad visual effects. There is no such thing, right? It is just undercooked visual effects, right?
In what way?
It
Well,
just needed more time.
It needed
But
more
so
time.
it is
The
bad
visual effects
visual-
artists nowadays are using the best software, are really, really talented people. And the people working on these massive shows know exactly what they are doing.
Didn't you give us like an example last time of like a visual effects scene in a movie that was the same artist as like Black Panther or something like that?
Yeah, okay. So, I think we've all seen Blade Runner,
Yes.
right? Blade Runner has some of the best visual effects. I mean, they won the Academy Award for Best Visual
Yeah.
Effects. I mean, Ana de Armas goes through another person, completely computer generated, you'd never tell. And that was the same team that did the Black Panther fight scene.
Which is what people say killed the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Now-
insane.
Now, that team at DNEG, or whoever they were, right, are really good artists. But if they don't give them enough time, which is what Disney keeps doing, and other companies keep doing as well, and just don't give them enough time to work on it, then how do you expect there to be good visual
Results.
effects? But realistically, right, everyone out there went and see a movie, oh, the visual effects were really bad. No, they're not. They are great visual effects. Everyone's getting really good at spotting what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
Except that one scorpion that Dwayne Johnson turned
But that was really
into.
But
But that
long
was
ago.
ages ago, to be
Scorpion
fair.
King. Clip on- But we looked at this, right, and we're just like, oh, that's fake, right? Because your brain's just like, there's no way they got a giraffe.
Yeah.
That's what's telling us what's real and what's not. Because obviously, if there's a dragon, you're going to go, okay, they didn't have a real dragon.
Yeah.
Right? So it's unfair for us to say, oh, that was a bad visual effect. Because odds are it's a great visual effect. And your brain's just going, no.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what you think the problem is that CGI has gotten so good and so realistic that we're always trying to figure out if things are real or not.
Yeah, it's a magic trick, right? So if you have two shots of a giraffe, the first one you're like, holy shit, there's a giraffe. How cool. The second shot, it's like doing the magic trick a second time. And you're like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. I didn't think this was real at first.
No.
right?
We watched this
None-
episode together. and
Except
we were
for
just...
one moment when the giraffe eats out of Ellie's hand.
Yeah.
And as a visual effects artist, you go, there is no way in hell that someone animated this lettuce from being real in their hand or fake lettuce going into the giraffe eating. There's no way. So I'm like, okay, so they probably had the head somewhere or, you know, some stunt arm or anything like that. This, though, this is a much better idea. And this is why they're working on The Last of Us and I'm not.
Yeah, when you have HBO money, you can
Yeah.
get a giraffe.
Yeah, they just, but the thing is, how difficult is it, right? They could have just built this at a zoo or at some sanctuary, just integrated the giraffe. I mean, odds are they possibly replaced the giraffe, right? We don't know that. We don't know they didn't, but they had a really good reference on what a giraffe's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And that's what made the show good. This is a great example. They took the time, the attention. I mean, every show does. No one's trying to make a bad show, but they were just such creative people that they could do it, right? And they absolutely pulled it off. And for the 4 people who have yet to see The Last of Us, I don't know how to
This
explain it
breaks
to you,
my
but just do
brain.
it.
This is
This shot-
Bill and Frank's house?
Yeah, so this is Bill and Frank's house. Bill and Frank
Why
are in
doesn't
the
it have
game.
a roof?
Yeah, so they built the sets for everything. fun fact, building houses, not that expensive, especially when you don't need to fill them with anything and no one needs to live in them.
Considering,
are they just wooden flats? Like
the way back,
I'd assume
we
so.
built a set.
Yeah, we built an entire basement. It's massive.
But
It's
not an entire house.
20 feet by 40 feet.
This breaks my brain.
But realistically, if we wanted to, could we build a house with flats?
Yeah, this is exactly that. So it's just the framing of a house on the outside with no roof and no back. The roof is the hard part to do. And it's just really easy. Once you have the house, you just, whenever you need, just paint in a roof.
Considering we went to, Dylan and I went to Warner Brothers studio, and they have a whole neighborhood of just empty houses. And then a few of them you can actually go inside, and the first floor is all intact. But then the minute you look up, it's just like air conditioner vents and it's all empty inside.
Yeah.
But the actual house is there. So
yes. So what did we learn here today? HBO can do whatever they want and we'll watch it. Promise. Please keep doing it. Visual effects are actually not bad. You're just very good at looking at them. And also just stop. Just if it's a cool
trust
dragon,
the visual
it's
effects.
fine. Like as people trying to make films, don't point out the magic trick, right? It's a magic trick. Just it's cool, okay?
Just look at it and move on.
Yeah. Except if you're watching Hawkeye, it has some really weird jank, okay? But if you're watching like How I Met Your Mother, they have like car scenes where they're driving around and it's horrible, right? But it's not the point. It's a comedy show. No, She-Hulk as well.
No, let's not get started with
When
She-Hulk.
they're driving around, it's obviously a visual effect, but it's not the point. They spend the time rather than focusing on the visual effects, focusing on the comedy, and it's a comedy, so it's good.
Yeah.
So the 4 people who haven't watched the Last of Us, it's gonna say The Way Back, but everyone's watched The Way Back.
Yeah, if you haven't, what are you doing
guys?
with your life?
You've seen it. It's the Difyrent.com/The Way Back. You know what it is and how long it is and how nice it is. But for the 4 people who haven't watched The Last of Us, watch it. I don't know what you're
blow
doing.
your mind.
Yeah, it's
such
a really
great
good show. And anyone who complains about it, honestly, like, fine, art is subjective. But what do you like? There's an episode, like each episode is different. There's an episode for everyone.
Each episode hits. And closing off, I feel like the one thing that we learned is The Last of Us, fine, it's the zombie game everyone knows about. But at the core, it's the show about The Last of Us.
It's the people.
Yes. And we'll do a whole episode on The Last of Us, why it's The Last of Us, right? Because I do feel like that's another reason why they nailed it.
Yeah.
But yes, that has been the first episode of Quick Takes.
What are we discussing next?
So next up is Mars episode, right? And we're going to be discussing the Super Mario movie. The second Super Mario movie. Fun fact, there was another one that came out before.
Let's leave it aside.
Let's leave it.
But for this next episode, I'm actually putting my degree to the test. Digital art. Yeah.